Welcome to the next breakthrough with Sean Campbell. Today, we welcome Julie Nikolaieff. She's an AI force multiplier, a certified agent builder, and the founder of Procingere and BeingReady.ai. She specializes in designing high-impact agentic workflows and organizational readiness strategies, focusing squarely on mitigating the human capital and compliance risks that stall AI adoption. Now, she draws on many years of experience from large-scale change management initiatives where there's over 100,000 employees at like a Fortune 50. And she's also been an expert helping highly regulated organizations master change required for this type of agentic economy. Not only is she focused on large organizations, but she also is promoting AI literacy through BeingReady.ai. So to start off, Julie, I wanted to ask you a question around why now for AI? And how do you feel this is different from when we met, let's say many years ago, so we don't date ourselves? It was during the dot-com boom, though, and it was a bit of a boom and bust. And how do you feel that today is a bit different? Do you think that we're living in an AI bubble with a lot of speculative money going into it? Or do you think this AI, generative AI age is a little bit different? Like, what are your thoughts on?
While I don't have a magic mirror to know the future, I do think it's different. I think AI is here to stay. I think that it's showing up in some areas already with real value. And there's some that learned a bit from the smoke and mirrors. And you still see it a little bit, but the smoke and mirrors, people are asking for valid value, and so they're sort of forcing the point a little bit more. And so I don't see AI going away. I don't see that there'll be what we experienced as that boom and bust cycle. I do see, though, a frenzy right now, right? There's so much out there, so much evolving. That'll start to get whittled down. I think you'll see merging activity. People will join together. People will join forces. You'll see leaders emerge, and you'll see some consolidation. I think it's really fun right now because we're seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas, and some amazing startup dynamics. But I think you'll see that taper down, and you'll see some consolidation and some emerging winners. I think we're starting to already see some call for value, call for outcomes compared to earlier this year. So I think you'll see a little bit more focus, a little bit more expectations that'll drive who emerges.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the conversations I'm having initially was just like, there's a lot of tools that have come out. Just dive in and start using tools, but people were not really looking at the process that they're actually trying to impact, or what is the outcome they're trying to impact. And with any new technology, whether it's enterprise software or, something that's going to improve your operation, you have to go back to your business process and understand, well, what is the actual change you're trying to impact? The experiments are fun. Yep. It's amazing to, yesterday I was mocking up the background image of me standing in various locations around the world, doing fun stuff like that, or turning books into podcasts and all of that. But then at the end of the day, what is it actually doing? Is it increasing your revenue? Is it reducing cost? Is it,
Yes.
helping out with compliance? And I think a lot of companies are starting to now think about, okay, we've done the experimentation phase, but what is it? What are we paying for here? Like, are we getting some sort of ROI on it? And I think what you're doing, working with companies to help them understand that is really important. Talk to a little bit about your background. So it's quite varied. You started off in quite large enterprises, spent a lot of time working with the largest companies in finance and in government. And yeah, what lessons do you take from there that you can apply to the smaller businesses?
Yes, I have a very large scale change and transformational change back in early technology startup environments through the public sector. I was with NASA for a period of time and taking them from paper to enterprise technology, and then tremendous types of evolution with a Fortune 50 bank, both organizational and from a technical standpoint, and even cultural with merger integration. And the one thing that is persistent that I see across change doesn't go away. Change is constant, and the frequency over time has gotten faster. We're experiencing it faster. We're experiencing it in volumes and scale that have created quite a bit of change fatigue. And so people are just genuinely full-plated. They're overwhelmed. They have a lot. And so it's really important to think holistically. And and one of the things that I constantly say, readiness is not an end state. We're constantly going to evolve, and readiness is a practice. It's learning how to evolve, how to stay abreast of that, and how to be agile in all the change, because it's only gotten faster with AI. In fact, I've never experienced it this fast in any other change from my background. So I'm working with smaller groups, but I do have that large scale. Thinking how to scale is also really relevant with AI, because there are different governance frameworks in different countries, and the complexity is there. But again, it's really anchoring back to people, anchoring back to the fact that it's not an end state, it's an always state, and creating those habits that support agility through the changes that, again, I don't think every day we wake up, AI is giving us something new. So being ready for that is key.
We have to recognize there is a fear out there. It's either fear of being displaced in your job, or it's the fear of missing out. You wake up and you go, "Oh, somebody else knows something more than I do." So it makes you feel like, well, I'm not an expert in that space. But the reality is it is changing so fast. You could literally have weekly meetings or even daily meetings to talk about what are the latest developments out there, whether it's on the hardware side, new data centers spinning up and more powerful chips coming out, or it's the latest marketing tool that's come out that helps you now accelerate your content creation. So there's all kinds of things happening all the time. But as leaders, how do you communicate from your perspective this shift to this augmentation rather than replacement, and help to build that momentum in a team or with people that are a little bit resistant? How do you work with them on that?
Yes, I think there's a few key things that are really instrumental. From the top down, everyone has to recognize we're in a learning mindset. Everyone leans into learning. I've listened to the heads of AI at a big name company say they're still learning. Anyone who tells you that they know it all, you should question them. Everyone's learning. Everyone leans into that and recognizes with learning, you need to have the space and the environment that allows for experimentation, failure, reflection, feedback, all of those dynamics that create a good learning ecosystem. Leaders need to establish that and create that environment and recognize they have to learn too and model that and support that. You can't expect a manager to sit through a 90-minute fire hose webinar on something while answering the 250 emails that came in during that time. You have to give them that space, give them the time to reflect on what they've learned, and then practice it somewhere without penalizing anybody for not doing it correctly. So that learning mindset and leaders creating that environment are absolutely critical, especially with the everyday changes. And we have to, again, let go of thinking I'm going to get to an end state here. It's a practice, it's daily, it's evolving, and that's the, I think, foreseeable future. I do also think that, there is a fear, and as you look at AI and solutions, thinking about how to enable individuals, if something they do is say repetitive that AI can support, then what's that strategic muscle or that exploratory muscle that they can then start building on, something they've always wanted to do perhaps in their job. So it's not giving up a role, it's taking a role and reframing it. I think that's where leaders are having those conversations. And as an employee, you're raising your hand and saying, I've always really wanted to talk to this customer about this idea. So if their time is freed up with AI doing something more repetitive, then go talk to that customer and that's supported, and their role is reframed. So I think those types of conversations are key, and recognizing some more repetitive work is probably going to be done by AI. I'm not going to pretend there isn't, but there is an opportunity here to reframe that, and to also, there's new roles that AI is creating, and opportunities to flex in those ways as well. And as you're learning, you're going to see what those opportunities look like too. So I think that learning kind of feeds into how to reframe roles to be AI leading with the work they do, AI doing some of it, and them managing that work, and then doing those strategic or relationship activities. Leaders have to model that, and they have to be transparent as well.
It takes a bit of a mindset shift, like you said, that people have to think about what could I do today that I couldn't possibly do yesterday, last week, last year, because I have this technology. I have this concept of a digital employee or a digital I don't necessarily like to say digital employee all the time because it sounds like it's replacing the human employee. I think it more of a digital assistant. Yes, there will be, like you said,
Mhm.
some processes that will be replaced and automated because it makes sense, and sometimes people don't want to do those manual processes anyway because, that's not creative, it's not strategic. So why are we doing it? It's because we just never had the tech to do it. But if we have it now, giving people the opportunity to come and say, well, yes, this is broken, make an acknowledgement of it, but what are the opportunities to improve it? And how do we work together on making it
Yes.
better for everyone so that we can now focus on something else that's servicing our customers better, or focusing on the corporate goals or the company goals that you want to focus on. So I think there's that concept of how do we use technology to benefit us versus, replace us in every situation. And I think although the news tends to glamorize or highlight, the layoffs and the change, which are definitely, part of it, I think what you don't see in the background is people taking advantage of it and moving beyond the experiments to say, I've actually dove into my process. I understand now where all my customer touch points are, or where all of the internal processes are getting mucked up, and how do we focus our people on improving that. But it takes some self-reflection, and I think that's the mindset people have to be comfortable with, saying, I'm not going to hide the problem. I'm going to actually raise the problem and take ownership of it and say, okay, well, what can we do with the new technology? People that are forward leaning and thinking about it that way will be the ones that'll stand out in the organization. They'll say, look, I've discovered a problem. I have a solution or an idea for a solution. And this is something we can use to improve our business and improve our customers' experience. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. You've dove into that space, I think, even hands-on quite a bit. We were talking about a company called Mind Studio and building AI agents. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I know you just did a recent introduction to that agent building.
Yes, yes. I've been very excited. I've been part of Mind Studio's AI Agent Builder community. I went through, it's a 30-day boot camp to learn how to build AI agents. And I have some background. I've built some agentic workflows in some other platforms, and also things like custom GPTs and AI assistants, Google Gems, that type of thing. So, but I really wanted to get that broader AI agent capability. And I really had been looking for a platform that I felt satisfied, an area that I felt was struggling with some of the other tools I was using, and that was end user ease of use. Being on the AI adoption, that's a huge barrier. You want people to experience things in a smooth and accessible way, and able to get momentum quickly. And when I discovered Mind Studio, the platform, it really does create an ease of use for both the end user when they're accessing the agents, but also the builders in building them. And so I was excited to be invited to the club, so to speak, and went through and got the certification, and took the exam, and now am building. I have, I think, over 32 agents in my queue, some in draft, some already published out on GitHub. And huge opportunity for, especially as you look at small to medium businesses, ready out the door options in terms of being able to quickly apply something like a writer assistant, or a full processing of a particular task, developing a statement of work, or a SWOT analysis, financial analysis. There's so many things you can do really easily out the gate. And so I felt that they were the platform I wanted to leverage for AI adoption for these organizations that I'm helping because it really allowed for quick momentum. And through momentum, you kind of get that movement right for adopting AI and starting to see that value. Because I think that's one of the things I'm seeing, right, is what are we getting for our return here? And you can see it more quickly, I feel, with that platform. So yes, so I've been teaching, I've been helping deliver that first level foundational knowledge on some of the basic agents, and we'll start hopefully advancing to more complex agent development for either individuals or businesses.
So people will look at your background, they'll say, well, she's got a lot of experience. She's been in tech for a long time and change and working with the largest companies. And oh, wow, she's quite experienced. But for someone who maybe is running a smaller business, they may be a little bit hesitant. Well, that sounds quite technical. So can you kind of explain to, someone who's non-technical, maybe it's somebody who's never really coded anything, how could they start to understand that it's not as complicated as you think it would be?
I will qualify that I'm not a programmer and you don't need to be. While I've been around technology, I don't code. I've learned a lot and I've leaned into that, but you genuinely don't need to be in order to get some AI agents off the ground, especially with Mind Studio. You'll hear a lot of no code tools are out there. They do definitely make that easy from my perspective. And just think of it as, when you're interacting with, say, a Chat GPT or Copilot or Gemini, you're asking a specific task, write this or create this image. It's very task specific, and depending on your context will depend on how the outcome is, and there's a little bit of fluidness to that. With an agent, you can establish multiple tasks, including human in the loop interactions, to produce an outcome. So for example, let's pick a simple one. You want to write a social media post of some sort. You want to write either something on Facebook or something on LinkedIn. You want to write an article about some news in your particular industry. An AI agent can help research that news for you, then take it and summarize it and distill it into key elements, then apply your brand voice because you've had a brand voice analysis. So then crafting content with that in mind. So the words you use, how you speak, it's taken all that content consumption. It's now crafting that particular article for your voice. And then it sends it to you to review. So you have that interaction, provide feedback, ask questions, and provide direction. And then it'll incorporate that. Sometimes there might be one or two reviews. And then that agent will post it directly to your LinkedIn site for you. So it can help you through that full activity, such as you might have a social media assistant do, for example. That's just one example of an AI agent that we shared in that training to kind of give you a sense of it's more than one task. It's creating things, it's sometimes in cooperation with your human in the loop feedback, and then could be posting or scheduling or taking actions and decisions based on how you've asked it to engage with whatever the task is you've defined. Things can be as simple as reviewing a website and summarizing it for you as well. You can have a simple content summarizer that can distill information and encapsulate, key points for you. That's a really good one. That's kind of straightforward and simple as another example. And the key here is thinking of ways that can help you save time or tasks that might be repetitive that it can do for you. And that's where you would start pulling things over and leveraging an AI agent to support you.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there about talking about human in the loop. You hear that term a lot, and I think basically it's important to insert the human in the discussion because ultimately the AI agents or that's like the ChatGPT or any of the tools that you see out there, the large language models are going to give you varied answers every time that you ask it a particular prompt, give it a certain command. It's going to come back with something that's varied because it's statistically going through things and it's looking for relationships in the data itself, right? I think it's important to keep that human involved for the review cycle to ensure that what's going out is accurate. Yes, when you start to develop agents, you over time will understand what the output is and you can slowly kind of It's almost like teaching a child or an intern or something. You say, okay, you start off, do it, I'll check you, and eventually you'll check them a little bit less, and then you'll start to see like, oh, I'm actually training this thing because you're actually training it to understand how you
Mhm.
would respond and what it is about you. And I think having discussions with other companies and people around how you would AI yourself, right? So a lot of the power of these AI systems comes when it has context. So unless it has your specific business context or your personal context, it's not going to give you the best answer. So there is that balance of how much do I actually volunteer to these kind of new, either the big tech companies or maybe these startups that have these agentic browsers, or they're asking you to give us all your information, we'll give you a best answer. What are your thoughts on that? Have you dove in like full blown attaching all your Google Docs and all of your knowledge into these AI systems? Is that what you would advise people to do, or do you think there needs to be a bit more of a measured approach?
I always say, first and foremost, be mindful of the personal information that you have and inputting it in anything. There are ways to make things a little less personal, and I always encourage think through that. Be careful what you are including. Um, I do feel that it's important if you're doing work on behalf of your organization that you know what their policies are as well in terms of sharing information. There are often levels, sensitive or not, public or not. Make sure you know what those classifications are for the data that you're working with. And you can use it to come up with scenarios that maybe you're not uploading it, but you're writing out a scenario that's similar to the one that you're dealing with a customer. You're not including that customer's information, but you're portraying that scenario and not divulging anything. There are ways to do that, but at the baseline, you've got to know what is acceptable or not, and know your environment. There are organizations that have contained environments, and you still need to be mindful. For me personally, I do feel context is important, but I do check and I am mindful of what information I upload. But for example, I've done a full voice analysis. So I've included a bunch of examples of my written work and have analyzed that so that I have an AI-ready voice blueprint. And I've developed an agent that can do that for anyone else. But that is something that I felt was important so that I have a consistent voice that's sort of AI-ready, but had to be evaluated for that. And I was okay with that. I don't include anything personal about my family. I'm very mindful of that. And I always read, and you'll hear this in everything I've ever published. I always read terms and conditions. I know it's tedious, but I do read them. And I encourage everyone to read them as well. Know what they're doing with your data and how you can turn that on or off. Most AI tools will either be explicit and say, we're using your data for training purposes, we're using it for whatever it is, and then how you can turn that off or not. And if you can't, you may choose to use another tool, but read it and make sure you know what you're using. Oh, I was just going to add, we do have an agent at Mind Studio, and I'm working on one as well, that helps you look at work for bias and for personal information to remove it. So you can actually look at also using AI to help you use AI better as another path.
It's quite meta, as they say. In 2023, right? I saw generative AI come out. I saw that GPT, and all of a sudden I saw this was going to be something that is going to change how people work. I went off, I discovered, as much of the sources of information I could. I wrote a book on AI to try to guide other leaders on how to navigate this uncertainty. And during that time, there was so many tools, you couldn't keep up with it because like literally daily there was these what I would call ChatGPT wrapper tools that would just be a nice UI on top of ChatGPT, but they were all doing various things. And when you go to the website, and sometimes there wouldn't even be terms of service, there wouldn't be any explanation of who owned the company. You had no idea who you would be giving your data to. And I think that's where I said, okay, maybe don't start putting in all your private information in there. But, a lot of people who haven't experienced that tend to think, oh, this is something I can trust. Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of discernment. It takes a little bit of pause and reflection to say, is this something I would want to share with the world? Or is this something that is more proprietary? And I think from a company side, some of the people I talk to are starting to realize that if we all have the ability, like a commodity, to use these AI agents and all of the data that's behind these large language models, the content that's on the web, and be able to manipulate things or, at least leverage this information, then what becomes the moat, for companies? What's the differentiator? And I think it's going to be the proprietary data, or it's the customer data they hold in order to give those unique experiences, because otherwise everyone kind of has access to the same tools. So what is it? It's the proprietary data, it's the talent at your company. Like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you differentiate when everybody's kind of eventually gonna sort of have a baseline level of capability?
It'll be interesting. I think that baseline capability, we need to make sure everybody has access to have some baseline capabilities. I do feel that one of the areas I'm looking at is making sure people don't get left behind, and supporting all organizations, small or large. So I do think that's important. It's going to be interesting. I think where we'll start seeing scales tip a little bit will be on how we leverage our expert community. You'll have AI, you're going to have data sets that are shared by many of the same groups, but then you're going to have the experts reviewing those outputs or not, hopefully, and what actually will be satisfying that customer end goal. And so how you really leverage the knowledge experts who've either been doing the work long before AI came along, or have that lived experience, that perspective of having walked through the outcome or worked with a customer through the outcome. And is that AI output where it needs to be, or do we need to go here or there, depending upon their lived experience as well? So I think it's really going to come down to how they're leveraging experts in addition to that AI output, where we might see some scale tipping in terms of the organizations that really leap ahead. I think those organizations that are also bringing everyone and making things accessible to everyone are the other groups that we're going to see that inclusivity and that accessibility. They're going to leap ahead as well, just from the community element. So it's going to be interesting, though, to see how the data itself and the training of that data evolves. I do see more governance evolution taking place, and guardrails will be interesting to see. You see it different countries in different ways, and I do see things are coming on that front, which will influence things as well, in my perspective.
Now, you're obviously helping a lot of companies, both large and small, and navigate this uncertainty and this, this FOMO, this fear of missing out or fear of being displaced. Everybody has to be ready. So tell us a little bit about your I.AM.Ready framework. I was reading a bit about that at your BeingReady.ai, and how you're helping people to feel that they are ready for this change.
Yes, it focuses on the fact that AI is moving so quickly. There's a lot of phenomenal change frameworks and methodologies out there, but people at an individual level need to be anchored quickly because it's changing so fast. And so our focus is on really focusing on impact, and then weeding through the noise and looking at what that impact is and how can we get action. What is something that is low cost, perhaps lower effort, but quicker in terms of movement? So looking at things in terms of what's the one habit, what's the one action, and then creating mini plans around that to create momentum. And so it's really about creating action, momentum, and then the habit that comes from that, and anchoring that into a practice. Again, readiness, we feel it's a daily thing. It's not a start and stop thing. And so using some of the same tenets of some of the broader change management methodologies in terms of, why does it matter to you? What's that impact? And then looking at it from a prioritization standpoint, sort of leveraging what I like to call that product backlog framework, but think of it in terms of a change management backlog framework. What things are you going to get more impact for in a shorter amount of time? And helping people work through that and giving them the ability to not have to do everything at once. In some of the more popular methodologies, you have to plan it all out. And this framework is about what's that first action, what's that first momentum, let's get things moving, and then you build from there, so that they can keep, because it can change tomorrow. So you can build this whole strategy, spend 2 weeks on a strategy, and it won't be relevant. So it's taking that into account.
Yeah, I had another guest, Ian Gotts. He's from Cloud, and I asked him, "What's the best way to get started?" And he said, "Just get started." Like that's literally the best way. So
Yes.
hopefully you can help some of the people out there who are struggling with AI, trying to understand it to get started. If they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, I'm Julie at BeingReady.com, or you can check out our website at BeingReady.ai. We do have some open forum already out there, or you can book time with me, complimentary, to chat about your needs, and we can get started. And we're here to ensure everyone gets that opportunity. So accessibility is really important as well. So that's how you can find me.
And it doesn't matter if you're a large company or you're just starting out as a smaller company or an individual, you have different solutions for different people.
Yes, yes, I'm actually working on some AI agent toolkits for solopreneurs at the moment and small to medium businesses and farmers. So I have a lot of variety in addition to bigger companies and tech environments. So everyone I think can find some value and some use, and even if it's just from an AI education standpoint, but also developing toolkits ready to go for smaller groups too. So lots of paths to go down.
Great. Well, thank you, Julie, for joining today. Really appreciate the discussion. Great to see you and look forward to connecting again very soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sean.